Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Not Your Average Bucket List by Only in Your State. I'm really excited for this episode today because not only are we going to talk about Florida, which is where I live, but I've also been to this place, so I'm super stoked. I'm here with my co host, Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Marissa, the day has arrived. You did it. I'm so excited.
I made it. So the article from Only in Your State that we're focusing on today is titled Few People Know This Charming Small Town in Florida is the Halfway Point Between Jacksonville and Key West,
Hmm.
which is pretty cool, first and foremost, because that is quite the distance if you're driving from one point to the other. And having this town as like a unique stopping point could potentially be very cool. Um, Also, this article was written by me, which
Hey.
finally I made it. Um, and so the first thing that I need to clear up that yesterday, quite embarrassing, but I've been pronouncing the small town wrong this whole time.
Oh, no. I mean,
So,
look, that tracks
no
for us.
right.
Oh,
No
no.
surprise there. I don't know why. I don't know if it's my brain that like went back to I don't know if you watched Baywatch, but David Hasselhoff's son was named Hobie in that show. So I don't know why I just assumed it was Hobe Sound. It's not. It's Hobe Sound.
Hobe Sound.
Hobe Sound. This
I
whole
feel like that just, okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Hobe Sound. Hobe Sound. Okay. Uh,
So Hobe Sound, yeah, I've been saying Hobie this whole time, and I don't know, nobody's really. So actually, I was speaking to shout out to. I'll get to this later on, but shout out to Juliet at Mood Restaurant, which is in the area, because she's the one that said it's pronounced. It sounds like hope, but with a B. And then I was like, okay. She's like, but nobody really correct goes around correcting other people because it's just it is what it is, like
so they're nice at least. Yeah.
yeah. Nobody's gonna be like, get out of here.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Um, yeah, threw a curveball straight away.
right.
So no one there was like a Baywatch fan and just was like, you know what, we need to plant a flag in the ground or Hobie Sound.
Right. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
just like that blew my mind first and foremost. But yeah, before we dive into like my experience there and my adventure, which surprisingly there are so many things to do. I've also realized being there that I've been there before, which just
Nice.
goes to show. But sometimes when you
Yeah.
travel a lot, like, it's especially in Florida, being here for so long, things kind of blur together. But I have been here before, but not really
Well,
to explore the way that I did.
and there's also that like Mandela effect of you could convince me I've been somewhere that I haven't. Like, oh yeah, I mean, I definitely was there. I remember it 100%.
Yeah, especially writing for Florida for Only in Your State for as long as I did. There's so many places I feel like I've been to when really like I'm just like diving into research and it's like, oh man, that place seems so familiar to me, but it's like all the way in the panhandle and.
Yeah. I mean, looking at I just can't remember when I used to go down to Port St. Lucie if I came up from West Palm Beach because I might have driven through it too. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
I'll never know.
Yeah. We'll see if anything like jogs your memory today
Yeah. All right.
while we're recording. But so Hobe Sound, first and foremost, there's a lot of history, which I thought was really cool because sometimes you can just chalk up a place to what it is now as just like a charming coastal town, a place people go to retire, a good surfing community. But there is a lot of maritime history in the area in particular, which I thought was really cool. And I do also think that there's a lot of emphasis on nature in this part
Yeah.
of Florida, which I really, really liked. They're very interested in protecting the surrounding area, the dunes,
Hmm.
the state parks. It's really a place that you can go that for me coming from like living near a big city, it's just so refreshing to kind of like be in nature, be by the beach, have
Yeah.
these areas protected, like that to me I thought was really neat.
Yeah, especially since there are so many parts, especially right now, of Florida that are probably busy, slammed with spring break students, or just like, people who are now they're starting to warm up, wanting to go to the beach and being able to find a little, you know, re- uh, s- respite among that is probably nice.
Yeah.
So down in
Well,
Hobe Sound, I refuse to give that up.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to correct you. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, so the area was originally inhabited by the Jaga tribe, indigenous people that they said the name Hobe Sound came from.
I'm sorry.
Right, I know. It's
I'm gonna start just like do it counting with hash marks. All right, I got
um
it.
yeah, so it's they were saying that the name obviously it was inhabited by this tribe many, many moons ago before it was anything at all and
Hmm.
before Spanish explorers came and kind of stuck their flag in there. But during the time that prior to the Florida East Coast Railway being built, Hobe Sound is believed to have originated from the Job Indians, which
Mm.
was that's the name where the name comes from, the indigenous tribe that lived in the area. And it's kind of like it sounds like Job Indians, Hobe Sound. That's where it's
Okay, so maybe like an Anglo-Saxon sort of a bastardization of Joe.
right.
Uh, okay, cool,
Yeah. Yes. And
interesting.
so the sound portion of the name refers to obviously the water body that was adjacent to the town, which is now part of the
Mm.
Intracoastal Waterway. So that's where like the maritime history comes in, which I think is very, very neat.
Oh, I'm stupid. I didn't even
Well,
the sound, like the actual, like a geographical aspect
yeah.
of the land is a. All right, there we
Yes.
go. Slow
Okay.
week this week.
Look, we're both learning things with this episode. I
We
mean,
learn. We learn together. We learn with our listeners. So thank you for being along on this ride.
so yeah, I think eventually in 19th, 20th century, Hobe Sound became then a popular destination for Northerners that had a lot of
Mm,
money that wanted a winter retreat. They came down. The Florida East Coast Railway made it really easy for people in the late 1800s because tons of people came down from the north. And then they had winter homes here because it was beautiful. It's on the water and it's
yeah.
still kind of like relatively small today. It's only about 15,000 people that live there,
Oh
and there
wow,
is
yeah.
still that. Yeah, it's like it's small town charm. It has it in spades. Um, their roads are small. There's like only one way in
Yeah.
and one way out of the town, which
Oh wow. Okay, so yeah,
yeah,
it is one
yeah.
horse town kind of deal. So let me ask you a question about Florida life. So is it A1A or just 1A? What do you say?
So I'll say A1A, sometimes US1.
Okay. So is it a drive that someone like you would take or Floridians would take for like an adventure like Route 66 or going up the Pacific Coast Highway? Like, or is it just like, no, this is utilitarian, it just goes through the state? So I'm curious like how much road trip traffic they get going through.
I would say it depends on the part of the state, really, because it's definitely road trip worthy because you're right on the
Okay.
coast. So there are pockets of like nothingness where you're just driving through and there's just like land and dunes and you can't even see the ocean. But then like just the other day I was on the part of A1A by Fort Lauderdale with my sister. We were going out to eat and that is like very saturated. Um
Mm,
Restaurants and clubs and bars and hotels and stuff like that. So it does
okay.
really depend on where you are, but I do think hopping on A1A at any point in the state and just driving a couple miles, you'll come across small businesses, like
Yeah.
little dive bars, restaurants, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, so pushing along in history, Hobe Sound ended up becoming this like picturesque place for people, and it attracted a lot of artists and writers and nature enthusiasts, and that's why it's retained much of its small town charm that today it still is known for. And then it just became this like hub for outdoor recreation and ecotourism and all that fun stuff, which they really lean into like their artist community, galleries, cultural events, stuff like that, which I think is really neat. That's usually like my one of my favorite parts about small towns
Mm-hmm.
is like, the culture that's kind of formed, but it still has that relaxed coastal feel.
Yeah. I did like the proximity to some of the like natural and I don't want to like blow up your spot with what you're going to talk about, but some of the things that are nearby that I think look really cool that I would visit, that I would plan to both in terms of parks and just like natural features. So, I mean, it's really a great location too. Like it's
Yeah.
accessible from a few different major cities. It's not so out of the way to where it's just going to be a slog to get there. So, yeah, I think it's a great spot.
Yeah, it definitely is extremely close to Jupiter, another
Mhm.
small town, Tequesta. And so yes, that obviously you already know when I travel someplace new, I love to create an itinerary. And
100%, as you
so
should.
yeah, I just feel like you get the most out of it, and I hate that feeling of like, oh man, I missed out on seeing this because I didn't, do my research.
I'm looking forward to it. This is what yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, so okay, it's about from where I live, it's about an hour and a half. So it took me that long to get there, but I found this place which apparently is a chain. I had no idea, called Three Natives,
Okay.
and they're right in town. Right as soon as you get in town, you make a left into the plaza. They have like acai bowls and smoothies and wraps and juices. Really cool place. So that I
Nice.
recommend like kicking off your little adventure there. And then there there is this park called Zeus Park, which super neat.
Okay.
All the like streets around it are, Venus, Aphrodite,
Ah,
it's all
nice.
mythology. Really cute little park in a circle. And they
Okay.
had one of those free libraries where, people can put up their so
Mhm.
I stopped to get a book, and then there was a butterfly garden right next to the library, little butterfly.
Aw.
So I went into there, and there are just, like, a couple of butterflies, and I'm like, "This is so magical." And then, on that same street, there was a bubble house, which is now historically registered. It's like a one of those dome
Oh,
houses.
cool, yeah.
So that was really cool. And then, yeah, so from there, Jonathan Dickinson State Park is about 5 miles, if you drive outside of town, which
Mhm.
yeah, this park, I've heard about it so often. I've never been, but it's beautiful. And I had so much fun. First of all, it became a state park in 1950. It's over 10,000 acres, so it's massive. And
Yep.
there's hiking, biking. You can rent bikes, you can rent canoes. There's like a pontoon tour that unfortunately I didn't get to take, which takes you to this place where this mysterious trapper lived. That he was like,
Oh,
yeah, reclusive, and he just like kind of trapped animals to eat and use their pelts, and he like lived there for years.
amazing.
So
Yeah. I
yeah,
also saw there yeah, like, so biking, fishing, boating, birding, camping, cabins.
yeah,
Also, there's glamping there, which I thought was adorable.
yes, yeah. It's a company I think called Timberline
Mhm.
Glamping. That yeah, they set up some bell tents, and it's like I just think that's such a cool feature because not everybody has an RV, not everybody has a tent.
Right.
Some people just want to have like maybe a couple more amenities than like a pop-up tent allows. But
Mhm.
having that as an option, I think, yeah, is really cool.
Yeah, and especially if it's, I read that it was the largest state park in Southeast Florida, and you have all these amenities, and you have actually a bunch of natural ecosystems coming together. So, coastal sand hills, upland lakes, scrub forest. Obviously, I was not there. However, I assume you can verify this.
Yeah.
And also the Loxahatchee River going through. So, I mean, it's just chock full of things to see.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on just in terms of like the activities that you can participate in because even if you're just driving through the park, there are little places to stop and placards. Like there's this one little observation nook that is specifically for alligator watching. And
Really
yeah, so like I was able to see an alligator maybe, I don't know, it was like 3 feet away from this platform. And then the gator like kind of slowly started creeping up the bank. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. This is how I die. But no, luckily nothing like that happened. And but then you keep
how often do you see gators? Just
in like my
curious.
day-to-day life,
Yeah.
not often at all.
Never. No, you just I
No, and
was so I was shook whenever I went to visit my brother and he lived in Port St. Lucie, so obviously different area from where you are. But in his development, saw the gator in the pond.
Mm.
They're just like, yeah, just don't walk your dog along there. There are gators there. I'm like, oh, I see it. It's there. And then we went to this nature center and library nearby where the kids had classes. Gator in the pond. I'm like, they're
Uh,
everywhere. I mean, obviously they are everywhere. We are
yeah,
living on their turf whenever we're down there. So
yeah.
I
That's
was just I'm just surprised that you don't really run into gators on the day to day.
I mean, I'm not really by like we have little channels that maybe there are
Mm.
some that I don't know about, and I'm close to 75, which is called Alligator Alley, which that has a
Oh,
lot of alligators. I don't really drive like on it too often to cross the state, but
does it have like a median with alligator? Like, why is it Alligator Alley?
on the sides of the highway,
Oh, I see.
fences, but then you could see them just like on the embankments and whatever. And there are a lot too. If you're really looking, yeah, you can see a lot there. And then that's passing through like the Everglades.
Yeah.
So, all the fun stuff
Then
going
it's
on there.
yep,
Right.
all hell breaks loose. All right.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I was able to see an alligator, which was really cool. And so
Nice.
there are a ton of wildlife in this park. Bobcats and otters. Didn't get to see an otter.
Oh.
I know. I know. But, gopher tortoises galore, which I was taking a video of,
Mm.
just, like, snacking on some leaves, which I thought was adorable. And then everybody in the park is really helpful. You check in, you
Yeah.
pay your fee. She gave me, like, a bunch of stuff, pamphlets, like, to-do list in the park of, like
Oh.
which to me that's, like, right up my alley, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it was just, like, a really well-maintained park, and I would definitely go back. I wanna do that pontoon boat tour to the Trapper Island,
Yes.
like, a
I'm
little bit
sure
of
you'll see a lot more gators on that tour.
yeah, probably. That was one of the only reasons I wasn't thinking about renting a canoe or a kayak because I don't know,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a little bit too close to water. Like if I'm up, that's fine and I can like get away from them, but that's
Yeah,
very close. Like what if I fall? I fall all the time.
right,
Like, you
right.
know?
And you're, like, panicked and scrambling, and then yeah. No, yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
Um, I will say that in the past few episodes, we've talked about some unique state parks, and I know we've talked about national parks before too. But I'm starting to realize maybe in my next life, I should be a park ranger because I would be so excited to
yeah,
talk to these people coming out. I want to give them to do lists and get them excited about all the things they can do in Dickinson State Park.
yeah.
Like that's awesome.
No, I agree, and so actually, speaking to that, from there, I went down a couple miles to Jupiter, and I went to the Jupiter Lighthouse.
Mm,
And they have volunteers working there who are like super
nice.
stoked to tell you about this lighthouse and to like, which I thought was absolutely adorable because it's these people that just are doing it out of sheer
Yeah,
joy.
they love it. They want it. They
Yeah,
want to do it. That's great.
yeah, like preserving history, and it's just like um, yeah, so I highly recommend anybody in the area to go to this lighthouse. It's $12 per person. There are discounts for veterans and kids, but it is well worth it because a lot of people are just volunteering their time there.
Um,
And you get to take a tour of the lighthouse. You get to walk up. So, yeah.
no, nice. All right,
Yeah,
I'm sold. That's
I
great.
know. Yeah, it's just also very beautiful because they have these absolutely gorgeous trees lining the area. It's right on the water, and then you climb up 139 steps. My calves are killing me today, but it's worth it because you get to the top and then you have just views of the ocean,
Yeah.
views of, Hobe Sound, views of the little inlet there. So it really, really beautiful and
I
yeah.
hope you threw on a beanie and a pea coat, maybe a little pipe, and just stood there and got into your lighthouse keeper vibe. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, that would have creeped everybody out.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, so that was fun, and also, so from there, I went over to Blowing Rocks Nature Conservancy.
Ooh, I'm glad. I read about that. That looked really cool.
Yeah, so it's free to go. You can give a small donation if you'd like, which I do also recommend if you have a couple bucks. And I didn't get to see any of the actual like tide hitting the rocks
Mm.
and causing this because it was low tide, but it's still beautiful to walk around. They have these gorgeous like covered mangrove trails right on the water that you can walk under these like archways
Oh,
of leaves.
mangroves are such a cool tree. Like
Yeah,
honestly, the way they grow, how much of they're like underwater trees. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. This place was really stunning, and before you even walk towards the actual like area there, because you have to walk a little ways to get to the bluffs, but you're walking through the vegetation, and they have a little area with buckets that they say take a bucket and whatever trash you come across while you're walking, put it in the bucket, and then when you get out, just like dump it. Which to me, I was like,
That's so
genius.
sweet.
Why
Yeah.
don't they do this more often, you know?
Mhm.
And but needless to say, there was only two things of trash that because I guess everybody's doing it, but it was very, very clean, well maintained.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and just really a really beautiful day. Like I lucked out for sure.
Did I hear a little bit of disappointment that you couldn't pick up more trash?
Yeah,
You're
because
like
I
really
was
excited to
like,
clean up.
man, what a nerd! Nerd alert.
No, no, no. It's adorable. It's great. It's a good thing to want to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just feel like,
Oh no.
you have these places and we need to take care of them. Like
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. So
yeah,
yeah, people keep going to is it in Blowing Rocks Preserve? The that path or is it
yeah, yeah, yep,
okay.
yeah.
Good job.
So
Good job everyone. Way to
worth it.
go.
And yeah, and then I ended the day at this place called In Mood, which is a restaurant. Also, like plants everywhere, which you already know that's like, my jam. And
Mhm.
it's also a completely plant-based restaurant, which
Nice.
was just awesome. And it's right there. It's in Tequesta because all these areas are kind of together. I
Mhm.
think everything maybe was within a 7-mile radius of everything I just mentioned. Um, and yeah, that's where I met Juliet, the bartender there, who was just, helping me with some local tips and stuff. And yeah, so very delicious meal. Like highly, highly recommend. It's
Yeah.
not every. I feel like when you're cooking plant-based food, it's tough sometimes for restaurants to hit the mark, but like this restaurant really, really did. Great
Yeah.
menu, highly recommend. And
I love that at the end of the day is when you learn the pronunciation.
right? Isn't that so embarrassing?
Oof. Thank you, Juliet. What a
Right.
star. Uh,
Yes, seriously.
I know what you mean though about plant-based restaurants. There's one in Columbus commune that every time I go, it just slaps. Not
Yeah,
even for just plant-based, but it is just its food is just like unbelievable. And I'm like, wow, I mean,
yeah.
bravo. So moods and where'd you say this was?
Food and
Into
Tequesta, yeah.
Tequesta.
Really
Okay.
cool. Yeah, she was just talking like they make everything pretty much in-house. I've never had a sunchoke before, and they were like crispy
Mm.
sunchokes. And they make their blood orange limoncello they make in-house.
Ooh.
Cool
Sounds
place, and,
lovely.
like, the window was wide open of the front, so it was just everything. You get the wind, the sun, there are plants everywhere. It was like the
That's
perfect
awesome.
thing to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so not only I feel like we almost undersell this area, the Hobe Sound, by saying, "Oh, it's a geographically significant place," which it is. It's the halfway point between Jacksonville and Key West, but that's not the attraction. It's all these other things. There's so many like natural attractions. It's in between, like you said, like a cluster of whether it's like little points of interest or like little towns where you can just like get to everything, go see
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, and it's not incredibly busy. I love it. I think it's like a prime hidden gem area of the state.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think Hidden Gem is like the perfect way to talk about this place because, usually when you're en route on the turnpike or 95, this isn't like your destination that is your end.
Yeah.
You're usually going someplace else. Maybe you pass it. And because I've always passed it and seen the sign and been like, oh, or they're like first to evacuate during hurricanes. Like that's how I
Oh,
know that area.
yeah.
But I mean, I would recommend 10 out of 10. Like that small town is doing it right for like so many reasons.
Yeah. I mean, if we haven't covered it as officially a small town on OnlyInYourState.com, I think we might now.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll get the job.
So here's the big question. Could you see yourself living there?
Yeah, of
Upon
course.